As property prices edge closer to all-time highs, it feels like there's mania in Dubai's air. Property launches are sold out within seconds, and every other person you meet seems to be a broker. This makes you wonder, surely we're in a bubble and it's a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. In this video, we'll be discussing some of Dubai's previous property cycles, what has caused prices to rise so much, and what could cause the bubble to burst. And in that time, Dubai has had its fair share of property cycles, property prices going up and then coming down again. And right now we're in a phase where property prices are going up and up. So the first property cycle started in the early 2000s, where Dubai allowed foreigners to buy freehold property. This was unheard of in the Middle East and caused lots of speculators and investors to put their money into Dubai. This then led to property prices surging and also led to a construction boom, and we saw some of the mega projects such as the Palm Jumeirah being created. However, in 2008, this all came crashing down with a global recession. The once cheap credit which Dubai had was gone, and property prices almost collapsed by 50% in a space of a year. So as the world slowly started to recover from a global financial crisis, Dubai's property prices slowly started to increase, with more and more people gaining confidence. What you then had is you had the Arab Spring, and this caused lots of people from the Arab world looking at Dubai as a place to live because there was lots of uncertainty in their own home countries. This then caused people to demand properties, and property prices starting to rise. Also, oil was performing very strongly, and again, this created a situation where the economy was doing very well, jobs were there, and people demanded property, causing property prices to rise. And what this then did, it led to lots of developers building properties. And then in 2014, the price of oil fell, and also there was a weaker economy just as all this supply was starting to enter the market and there wasn't the demand to fill these properties. What this then did, it caused a slow decline in Dubai's property prices, and they bottomed out in 2020 during the COVID pandemic. And ever since the COVID pandemic, prices in Dubai have continued to rise. They've increased on average by 50%, and in some sectors of the market, they've increased by over 100%. And it seems like property prices are going to continue to rise, and there seems to be no slowdown in sight. So that makes you wonder, why have property prices increased so much in the last 3 years alone? Well, the first thing is property prices came from a very low base. So after the pandemic, sentiment was at an all-time low. Therefore, if there was any sort of sustained demand, property prices would rise. And after the COVID pandemic, you had a very strong performing economy. This was caused because the Dubai government handled the pandemic very well and was opened while lots of the countries were still in lockdowns. What this then did, it caused lots of high net worth individuals to look at moving to Dubai. This then led to the situation where the economy started performing, jobs were being created, and people demanded properties. You also had some major world events, which were Expo 2020 and the Qatar World Cup, which were hosted nearby. Again, this caused the economy to do well and people demand property. And when people demand property and supply doesn't increase, prices will rise. So that led to steady increase in property prices. Also, what you've got to factor in, places like Europe are currently suffering with high inflation, high taxes, and worse services. So for people living in Europe and other countries, they're looking for countries where there's better opportunities, such as Dubai. By moving to Dubai, it puts further strain on property supply and prices will rise. Also, you've had the Russia-Ukraine war. What this has done is sped up property price increases, and I can't tell you how many Russians and both Ukrainians have come to Dubai, and all these people are going to demand properties. This therefore has caused prices to rise so much in such a short period of time. So if we look at the fundamentals, prices in Dubai have risen so much because demand for properties are outstripping the current supply available. Also, there's a very good argument to say that this will continue to happen because the Dubai government are trying to increase the population. Therefore, if there's more people moving to the country, the prices will continue to rise if supply doesn't increase. Also, a recent property report suggested that Dubai is in fact not in a bubble compared to many other global cities. However, the saying goes, what goes up must come down. So what could cause the bubble to burst and property prices to decrease? So the first thing is global economic factors. Dubai, even though it's doing very, very well at this current moment in time, if there is a major global recession, Dubai will definitely be affected like we saw in 2008. The reason for this is because if there are jobs which are lost, people will have to move back to their own home countries, therefore meaning there's going to be less demand for properties. Also, what you've got to factor in, a lot of the purchases of Dubai property are investors who are overseas. So even if Dubai is performing very well, if the people who are overseas in Europe, if they suddenly need the capital, they might be looking to sell their properties. And if they're looking to sell their properties and there aren't the buyers, then property prices will decrease. Another major issue which could cause property prices to decrease is oversupply. If supply starts to outstrip demand, you could find yourself in a situation like 2014 where prices slowly start to decrease. This could further be compounded because there's a lag time of properties being launched to when they actually come onto the market. Therefore, we could find ourselves in a situation in 2 to 3 years' time where you've got all this supply coming onto the market just as when the economy of Dubai is starting to weaken, or we could be in a global recession. So this could lead to a situation where you've got increasing supply just as demand is decreasing, and that will cause the bubble to burst. I'm sure you've heard lots of brokers saying there's not enough supply to keep up with current demand. And at this very moment in time, that is true. However, as an investor, you've got to be forward thinking and trying to analyze what could potentially happen. And if you invest in an area where there's lots of supply coming onto the market, and then there's a change in the economy, there's a change in circumstances, you could find yourself in a situation where there's not the rental demand and also the prices could start to decrease. If you want to find out about the areas where there's lots of supply coming onto the market, click on the link below. I've created a PDF. Also, if you're confused about where to invest in Dubai, book a call in the link below and I'll be more than happy to help. Before I go on to answer whether we're in a bubble or not, it's worth bearing in mind that this is just my own opinion and nobody knows what's actually going to happen. So as of right now, I do not think we're currently in a bubble, and I don't think we're going to see property prices collapse like they did in 2008. The reason for this is because there is lots of demand for property in Dubai, and I think the long-term prospects of Dubai is going to continue. However, a correction at some point is inevitable, and for this reason it is very, very critical that you invest in the right location. So will Dubai's property bubble burst, or will it defy the odds yet again? Nobody knows for certain, but one thing's certain, everybody's eyes are on Dubai. So the Dubai Marina is actually one of the areas I think will do relatively well even if there is a big crash. Watch this video here to find out the top 5 investments in the Dubai Marina, and don't forget to like and subscribe.